Today we have um, Ian Salpekar. I think I pronounced it right.
Very good. Very good, Chris. Yeah, Salpekar.
Ian Salpekar from a rock band called Gone Savage, originally hailing from Manchester, UK, was formed in 1990. Now he's a bassist, and also who's included as guitarist Andy J, vocalist Will Glover, and drummer James Ross. The band quickly made a name for themselves with their energetic performances and released three demos during their initial 2 year run, playing at iconic venues like the Marquee Club in London. After a long hiatus from 1992 to 2004 due to personal commitments, the band re-emerged in 2015 with a fresh lineup including James Marsh on lead guitar and vocals. They released a new EP titled Resurrection, which is great, in 2016, marking the beginning of their comeback. But now, in 2019, Gone Savage began releasing a series of singles leading up to their album PastLife, which was digitally released in May 2022. The album received widespread acclaim and was later reimagined as Life in Black and White by Heaven and Hell Records in 2023. The band's latest album, Retrograde, was released in October 2024, showcasing their continued evolution and creativity with a lineup featuring yours truly, Ian Salpekar, Will
Yeah.
Glover, and a new person named Dex Tyler and Jon Sudbury. Gone Savage remains a dynamic force in the rock music scene, known for the compelling songwriting and powerful performances. Welcome, Ian from Gone Savage. Welcome to the Onstage podcast. Pleased to meet you. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Chris, and thank you so much for inviting me on the show. I'm looking forward to discussing all things Gone Savage and trying to recall all the events from 30 odd years. Could be difficult, but we'll get there, I'm
That's
sure.
right. Can you give me a little bit of background of who you are, where you grew up, and what inspired the formation of Gone Savage in 1990? Start from the beginning.
Okay, so I was born and bred in England, UK, and I was started actually dabbling in music around about the age of 15, self-taught. Um, did some work with some of your listeners might be familiar with a band, current band as well, a thrash metal band in the UK called Zentrix. And I did some. My first band was with Dennis Gass, who's the drummer at Zentrix, and they're still very active. And we did some demos, and we started recording at a very early age, about 16. A lot of guys around within our circle, they didn't do that, so we were kind of pioneering quite a bit. And I used to record a lot of stuff myself, and then we went into the studios, the old 8-track back in the day, and we did some demos there. Did quite a few demos, and that then it led me on to a band called Sweet Sin. And Sweet Sin, UK band again. What the listeners will probably, although I don't admit to it, is hair metal. So it wasn't in the day. It was basically heavy metal with guys with long hair and sequins. So it's kind of evolved into this term, this hair metal. We released an album on our own Steam, 7-track album. Did rather well in North America. We didn't get out there, but we had a very good following in North America and in Japan and in Europe. The band itself, very good. But unfortunately, I left that band to form Gone Savage, and that band that kind of didn't carry on, really, which is a shame. You can still see plenty of Sweet Sin stuff on YouTube. It's got a really good vibe, 80s vibe all over it. There's videos up there. You can still pick up the album. We released a Sweet Sin album through Steelheart in Italy in 2018. That was full 11 tracks, extra tracks, bonus tracks, and that was part of a collector's series. Again, that CD, quite hard to find these days, but it's still available. None of that is on streaming sites anymore. It used to be, but it's not there now. So Sweet Sin, it's kind of a historic band. Move on to Gone Savage. So I formed that with Will Glover. And as you say, James Ross and Andy Halliwell. Andy Halliwell was actually in Sweet Sin with myself. We then did demos, as you suggested before, and that continued for about a year to 2 years. And then we replaced Andy with a chap called Grant Mallison for Gone Savage. And we kind of we did another demo, 2 demos. We did one in Bradford in the UK, a couple of tracks, and then that kind of like just fizzled out. I think at that time it was about 92, 93. I'm not going to blame grunge because everybody does that. I think I'll blame it on my eldest son being born. So it was a case of family first, and things kind of got put on the back burner. And that continued then through to around about 2006 when I started writing again. In 2010, myself and Will Glover, we were doing music for a band. It's like a band in a box called Revolution at the Zephyr, and that could be anything from rock to pop to metal. And then eventually Will came in, so I continued writing and playing with Gone Savage up to 2016, and then Will came in around about 2018 after James Marsh had left. So it's all a bit ups and downs and different changes, but essentially myself and Will Glover are Gone Savage. Always have been there since, like I say, 1989-ish. And we continue to write now. So we're writing and we're pretty prolific. So the last 2 albums we wrote, I wrote the songs and he did the lyrics and melodies. And on to the next album, which we're currently pushing, which is Retrograde. And that's a collection of songs that we've put together. Some have got a nod to Gone Savage, and some have got a nod to Revolution at the Zephyr. So it's all very eclectic. It's rock music, but it's certainly produced in a more modern way. So it's keeping up with the times. We're bringing guest musicians a lot these days, Chris, just to finish things off. I play, obviously, I play bass on the demos, and I also write and play guitar, but I'm not a guitarist per se. I just be able to write a tune, and I get someone else to play it far better than I can. So that's the logic. Dex Tyler is a permanent member, and apart from that, it's myself and Will. And that's where we are now. So this year we're hoping to, we've got gigs in the diary. So we're out in May, and then we're out again later on in the year in October, do some small festivals. And I'll hopefully, if I get a chance, I'm going to start writing the 3rd album because I've got a lot of material. It's ironic because I've got probably album 4 and 5 covered. I've got them already, but 3rd I haven't got. So that's where we're at. I'm also currently trying to get the Retrograde out because at the moment it's only available through streaming sites. I won't go into streaming sites. I don't personally like them, but they are a means to an end. And I'm currently in negotiation with a label to try and get the hard copy out this year of Retrograde. And that'll encompass all that lovely artwork by Hugh Syme, and it'll be a booklet, and it'll be a ditch bag. It'll be dual CE case and full inlay card. So looking forward to that. But that's taken a little bit more time than I expected. Hopefully this year we'll have a full release.
Were you toying with other names for the band besides Gone Savage? What other names were you toying with?
It's a bit of a strange one, that one, because I get the conversations. Will Glover came with the name Gone Savage, so it's Will's a tribute to that. And he wanted to do something different because he'd been in a band previously called Sam Thunder. And again, maybe some of your listeners will recognise. Now, Sam Thunder are due to release a new album. It's like a bit like the Sweet Sin thing, where you're bringing back old tracks and re-releasing them on CD through these collector series. So Sam Thunder's going to be relevant again this year. And when Will came to Gone Savage, they had a bit of a softer edge, and we wanted to go a little bit harder. So it was a kind of point to a harder image. Now, these days, it's quite hard sometimes, because when people first see the name Gone Savage, their preconception is that it's probably going to be something like thrash or really hard metal, and I do have that. I have that hill to climb, I must admit. So when I come on a show like this, I explain we're not like that. We don't eat babies and we don't kill people. We don't do any of that. And we have actually no profanity in any of our lyrics. So, we're not saying we're better than that. We're just saying we don't endorse any of that. So it's quite bizarre because the name would suggest that you would. And some of our artwork would, again, suggest that it's probably not quite what you expect. And I like that. But I like people to at least listen to it and experience and then decide. It's certainly not Gone Savage. It is Gone Savage.
So did you think the other band members' previous experiences in other bands influenced Gone Savage's sound?
Yes. Andy Halliwell from Sweet Sin. The Sweet Sin was more like an American rock kind of 80s band sound. But Andy and myself, we was really into our, again, American bands, Dokken as an example, and Rat as an example. But we also liked our UK bands, like I'm massively into Motorhead and Iron Maiden and people like that. So we brought a harder edge to it. And Andy wrote a lot of the music with myself, a lot of the music. So he's credited for quite a lot of the stuff that we're doing currently as a writer. And it was a lot more harder. And then Will got this really, really good melodic range melodic range within his vocal. And then lyrically, it's very, very good. It's a bit more than just "Ooh Baby" and all this. It's got a lot more depth in it. There's no agenda, there's no political bias. It's just got more meaning and meaningful to him. So PastLife was actually a concept album through lyrics, not through music, but through lyrics, and it's that kind of element. So he previously was in bands that were, well, Sam Thunder. I mentioned Sam Thunder, but he also was he's got a massive passion for bands like Wilson Phillips. So he was doing music outside. When we got him on board, he sent me a demo, and it was brilliant. It was like classic AOR, really good, really soft. Drummer, don't want him. He's rubbish. I'm like, no, he's not rubbish. He's not rubbish. He's singing something really well, and we can develop that. So we brought a lot of melody into our music. And nowadays, certainly on the last two albums, there's loads of melody, loads, and I like it. That's what we like, hard and soft. So yes is the answer. The drummer, meanwhile, he didn't really bring a lot. He brought a lot of experience because he was in the current band as well, Dare. So Darren Wharton, he used to be in Thin Lizzy. So he did the first album with Dare, Out of the Silence. So he played on that. That was all recorded in LA. But I think from a point of view, James is excellent drummer. Songwriter, no. But, you know, it's what it is. And I don't need that. I use whatever I need. So I'm quite proficient programming drums. So if I do that and then give it to Dex nowadays, and Dex often records in the studio, so that's where we are. So yes is the answer to a long question. A long answer to a short question, I should say, even.
Can you share some memories from your early performances at the Marquee Club in London?
Yes, the Marquee, very interesting because so back in the day, and we are talking around about 89-ish or 88, 89, I used to do all of the management, want a better word, of Gone Savage and Sweet Sin, all by phone and by letter. You know, no internet, no contacts, and you know, so I managed to get the gig at the Marquee, which was amazing, and I even got some money for it, which was even more amazing. And we had to go and support, and for the life of me, I can't remember who we supported. It was that long ago. But we had a right experience because we came from Manchester to London, just using the normal motorways, and they're not very good. They're still not very good. So we got in the van, we travelled on down. I can't remember we got a phone call, if I'm quite honest. We must have stopped at a service station and made a manual phone call. And the guy on the other end said, basically, you've got about an hour. If you're not here within about an hour, you might as well turn around and go home. Well, we was on the M25, which is really close to London. We couldn't go home. So we managed to get there. I think it was about 7:15. And the promoter said, look, basically, you get your stuff on stage and you go and play. Otherwise, you're going home. So it was a quite intense, you know, baptism there. But it went really well, and the gig went really well. So it turned out okay, but we was very close to being told we couldn't play, and it would have been an absolute travesty because at the time it was very big kudos to play at Marquee Club. So that's how that went. So yeah, we managed to get away with that. Other tales from the road, we played with a lady called Becky Bondage. I don't know if you remember her from the 80s. And that was a really strange affair with Sweet Sin. So Becky Bondage was a punk icon. Probably she's still going, I believe. And like Susie and the Banshees, that kind of thing. So we turned up a Sweet Sin, a metal band supporting this indie band, and it was like very strange, but we survived. And then we had another one in Wales, actually South Wales, where we turned up at again, this is how you booked it back in the day. You didn't know what you were going to get land. So Sweet Sin ended up in a miners' working man's club.
I can imagine.
Who all drank beer, bitter, and nothing else. And we turned up in our lycra and our spandex and our hair and everything. It was like, it was a bit odd. And it went round really well, but there was no atmosphere. There was no like engagement. And we thought, oh, here we go. We're going to get lynched here. And they loved it, but they didn't show it. Chris. It was a really weird experience. About 400 people as well in that room on a big stage, and they just like sat there drinking, and they're like, okay.
Wow.
And that
Wow.
was so. These are tales from back in the day, and yeah, some good fun. And then we found some false teeth under a stage once when we were playing as well. That was another one. We played a club in Oldham called the Hurricane, and me and Will were on there with Grant, and we were on a really good gig. And this guy steps up and shouts, middle of the crowd, "I've lost my teeth." And that's true. He lost his teeth. And everybody started looking on the floor while this great big mosh pit was going round him, trying to find his teeth.
It's hilarious.
I could go on.
But I'm more interested in why. What led to the band's extended hiatus from 1992 to 2014? That's like 22 years. Like in 22 years, like why did that's so long?
As I said before, I think from my point of view, for the band, it was that long. But I started to write again around about 2009, 2010 with Will. But it was basically because I had family, so family came first. I always will do, and that was to about 2016. And then I went through a separation and divorce, as people do. And I refound my mojo around about 2009. So I'd lost it completely. And to be fair, that time through 2019, 92, 93 through to 2006, 7, I couldn't play a banjo. I couldn't play anything.
Mm,
I'd lost it.
mm,
But never lost the inclination to do it. More the ability. It was quite bizarre, So not that I've
mm.
really taught myself, but it weren't far off. So I carried on doing it, and then fortunately, I think what reignited my passion was that I had more time. The kids were a lot older, and also technology moved on, so I could then start recording myself. I could start doing things digitally as well. Previously, it would all been microphones and 4 tracks and 8 tracks and whatnot, and that took a lot of time just to set up. So by the time you set it all up and you got ready to play, something would come along and you'd lose the impetus to do it. Nowadays, I can just set my little computer studio here and just fire something up. And I
Yeah,
think that was quite a big deal breaker, that Chris, that moment in time, it meant that I could do things, and I could do things on my own, and then I could pass it out to Will, and could pass it out to other people, and that really reignited it. So, yes, a long time without, but fully focused now.
yeah. And then you made that comeback in 2015. That was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that was good because and it was unfortunate really because we had a really good reception to what we wanted to do because people still knew who we were,
Hmm.
albeit in pockets of areas. Because previously we'd been more well, as I alluded to before, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have the global reach, you didn't have all these markets. Things that we used to do before. Seriously, I've got pen pal letters from Japan that I used to write to people who write to me, and it was on the back of the albums and stuff. And it was literally that was the only way to converse. So with the internet giving us more options, it certainly helped. It certainly helped. And so Resurrection, we could then promote it, and then we could mention it that it was part of this and part of that, and we could give people the background, the flavour. They could have
Yeah,
snippets, So, and I know as I said about Spotify, it's for different reasons. I don't endorse Spotify, but the fact that you could then share things across continents, countries, and with people who probably forgot that you ever existed, and then all of a sudden through Facebook and friends networks, it's like, oh, the boys are back together again. So it was really good. We started playing gigs in Manchester and Leeds, and mostly in the north of England. And it was a shame, really, because there's everything to play for, but I don't know. We couldn't find permanent members. It was really hard. James was as close as we got. James Marsh. This is before Will, and then guitar players. We must have had loads coming through, and they were no good. It's funny. I mean, I liken it to when I was a kid, 18, 19. Your guitar players would be there. They'd come to you. They would rehearse and they would hit it on the ground. We worked with guys, Vinnie Burns from Dare and Ten, and he's also phenomenal guitarist. You didn't have to tell him to learn his parts. And then moving on 20 years, people just didn't really have it. This was a time where, as we call it, piss I got off the pot, excuse my French, that you either learnt your lines and you came and you did it, or you don't bother, because there was so many guitar heroes, back in the day that didn't get out of their bedrooms. And now there's so many guitar heroes that do get out of their bedrooms. But when you get to an environment where you've got to switch on, like a recording, like a live performance, like even a rehearsal, failed. They just kept failing. And he was like, you couldn't relate. Their ability was superb, but yet they couldn't deliver. We had two guys turn up to a rehearsal once, and fantastic musicians. But we went to rehearse and they hadn't learned it. They hadn't learned the songs. I'm like,
Wow.
what we're doing here, boys? You're a competent professional musician who hasn't learned their lines. Just go. So we used to get loads of people like that. Honestly, Chris, unbelievable. But now I've got a nice, steady amount of people I can call upon, professionals, do the job, do exactly what we want and better. Just been recording with Sam Miller. I don't know if you've heard that chap's name. Sam Miller, he's a UK artist. Was in a band called Bigfoot previously. Sam Miller's on pushing his own solo now. But again, I give music to Sam Miller and say, I want this, I want that. Done. Bang, 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 bang. So it's what it's classic. You pay for what you get.
Yeah.
But I didn't believe that people could be so lazy this day and age. But there we go. I've been rehearsing. I've got a gig in May, and I've been rehearsing. It's only 35 minutes. I've been rehearsing every single day since January.
Yeah. You were talking about the Resurrection EP. So what's the creative process behind that?
So what I tend to do, well, I drive most of it. So I will put, I will obviously come up with a riff, but mainly chord structure, if I'm honest, and I'll run that through my little Easy Drummer 2, get my rhythm, put my bass on, and I'll kind of just put enough in there to give Will an idea of where the melody might come from, or possibly where the song might go. And then he picks it up and he runs with it. And he just puts some things on there that I could never even imagine. And when he gives me that back, then I can go to stage 2. I can start colouring it. I can start adding more guitar. I can put solo breaks in. So it's driven by the melody and the vocal, really. So I start with a very simple scratch pad, and then Will adds his, and then we build it up. And if I can't do the part myself, I'll get somebody else to play it and record it, and then send it across to me, and I stitch it into the final mix.
So how did James Marsh's addition to the band impact its musical direction?
Well, James didn't write any music for the band, so it didn't really, because James I class James as an absolute excellent performer. Not an artist as such, because he had written some stuff, but nothing for Gone Savage, and we tried and tried and tried. James, bless him, really nice chap, but he had bipolar, and he had a few issues outside of work, want of a better word. But super chap, but he couldn't really write, and it's a shame because he could copy and he could play note perfect. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I suppose that's probably part of his makeup. So if I said to him, James, I want you to play his solo, and he used to come and record, I engineered him. No problem. No problem at all. No problem at all. Straight away like that. But writing, no, he couldn't. So once Resurrection was done, I kind of closed that book with James Marsh, and not myself, because I wanted to carry on. So that's when I got Will back in and started writing it on our own. And that was a big turning curve, that one. It really took off from that moment from a writing and recording point of view.
Yeah. So what about this collaboration process for the album PastLife?
So again, similarly, on PastLife, there is myself. I play on that one. I play guitar and bass, and I program and I do keyboards. Not at a high standard, but certainly good enough for what we need. The collaboration on that one was with Sam Miller. So Sam Miller, he put in. I got him to do rhythm and lead mostly on that, mostly lead guitar, but he also did the rhythm tracks for me that made it really stuff that I can't do on rhythm guitar. I can play my basic chord structures, but I can't really do the jazzy stuff and make it sound good. So the collaboration was with Sam on that, only on that one. The rest of it I did myself. And then what we do, we file swap. So Will lives on the south coast of the UK. He lives in a place called Bournemouth. You might be familiar, down toward Brighton, Bournemouth, and Isle of Wight. And so I got him to set up his own little vocal booth studio. That's all Will does. He just does my vocal tracks, and then I bring him back here and I stitch him in and rebuild the song. And then if he wants to do, say, harmony or backing vocals, I'll send him a scratch, and then he can use that as his backing track, and we build it up, we build it up, we build it up, and then I end up with loads and loads of files. The PastLife, I originally mixed it, but I know my limitations, Chris. I can engineer, I can certainly write, I can record, and I can package. But when it came to mixing, I didn't have that, that little bit of extra zip. So we gave it to a chap called David Rahad Jones, who's in Manchester. Red City Recordings is his studio, and he did it. He did the stems because the stems were mixed through COVID, so I couldn't go in the studio and wait to send the stems by transfer. So he mixed all my stems. He did a really good job, but it would have been a lot easier if he would have been able to communicate and stand around the corner and go and talk and so like point and say, "Yep, that's good." So it's a bit of a long process. So it's not the best, but it worked. And that, like I say, purely because of COVID. So we did that through COVID, and that's what we do. And similarly with Retrograde, done very similar, but with live drums this time. So I'm putting together basically Easy Drummer 2, and then I give it to Dex, and he goes into the studio, and he's based in he's out in Plymouth, so that's down to not Plymouth, Penzance. So he's right at the far end of the country. So we couldn't get any further apart. We got me up north, got Will down south, and we got Dex on the west coast as far as you can get. But because we do file sharing, it works, So and we get together and we rehearse. So we're going to see each other in May for this first gig, and we'll rehearse to that. So that's the process.
Wow.
My idea first.
So you like the experience like when you were working with guest musicians Sam Miller and James Marsh on PastLife? You like working with them?
Yeah, I do. It's a shame really because I wanted Sam to do Retrograde, and he couldn't do it because he signed to Earache Records about a year ago, and I was looking for him to, because he did the one for PastLife in COVID because he had no work. He's a live artist predominantly, and also he circulates around all the musicians up and down the country. He couldn't do that, so when I said, "Do you want to do some work remotely?" he jumped at it. So coming to Retrograde, I couldn't get him in on that one, unfortunately. So we used other people, but absolutely no detriment to it. It's just that he's so good, so easy, Chris, so easy. There, done, done. It's all EQ and it's all gain. Everything's perfect. Just slide it in. Superb.
Yeah, I know that I asked many musicians about the song process and how they put it together, but I always ask them, so what's the experience behind a song? Like, your single Bulletproof. Where's the life experience for that one? Does someone try to shoot you or something? Try to kill you with a gun? Or
Do you know, this is where I'd like Will on, because Will is the wordsmith, he's a lyricist, and he's also, sometimes it's a bit embarrassing sometimes, because I do understand, and I obviously read his lyrics, and I do understand, but it's very personal to him. So I think with the Bulletproof is more akin to him. He had gone through a situation in his life. I won't go to the details, personal, and he came out on the right side, and it was more that kind of, I've survived. I am now bulletproof. So it wasn't anything, gangster, whatever. It was more to do with his own sanity. So again, it takes it from, I suppose, your preconceived idea of bulletproof would be quite, what happened there? Did somebody get shot, or, what happened? What went down? And it wasn't like that. It was purely, a relationship that went wrong.
wow. So how did the band approach the remastering and remixing of "Love Caught Me Out"?
Well, that one was originally written by Andy Halliwell and Will Glover. way back. And that was a really good track, actually. And originally, we just did it as a scratch. So it's basically bass, guitar, vocals, drums, live. So we put our bass and drums down, and then we put a guitar down. One guitar, no backing guitar, and vocal with some backing vocals by myself, Andy, and James Ross at the time. And that was it, very, very basic. So when I reinvented it with Will, that was for PastLife, we give it a bit more fizz. It's a couple of beats per minute faster, ever so slightly. It's got far more vocal on it. It's also got dropouts where we didn't have them before. It's got a lot more texture than before. Before was really good, but just basically, verse, chorus, middle eight, solo, verse, chorus, end. And then I changed the tempos in the middle, so basically double time in some of the sections and lots of things that just little nuances that made it a bit more fresher, and it certainly worked. So we enjoyed that track. It's a good track.
Yeah. So, what challenges did Gone Savage face while self-producing your music?
Well, for me, obviously everything's on myself, and I don't struggle, but I do struggle with the volume of it. And at the time, I was doing a lot of work for myself as well, and that
Wow.
took me
Yeah.
all around the country. Just normal things like life and then having to switch off and switch back on. We're not professional musicians. I wish we were, but it's a case of, so you get demanding of people, and Will at the time was obviously had his own issues, and then I want something to continue quicker. So rather than having an idea, seeing a creation, and then a big stop, and then have to reinvigorate it later on, it was getting a bit frustrating. We had Grant came in to help us with PastLife, Grant Mallison. So Grant Mallison's the guitarist that replaced Andy Halliwell before we split in '92-ish. And Grant also played on some of the tracks on PastLife, and Bulletproof being one, actually. But the output was very, very, very slow, very slow. And there didn't seem to be any real reason behind it. And again, I've got to be careful because outside of music, everybody's got their own life. And then possibly I was demanding too much of it. But the problem I got is that time waits for no man or woman, as they say. And also, from my point of view, I like to empty my head of something quite quickly. Not because I think, oh, that will do, but because I've got an idea and I want it down on paper. It's like writing anything down. Write it down and you can see what's happening. Get it down and get it into a stage where you can at least say, I can come back to it because now I've got the element and now I feel like it can go somewhere, or it's rubbish, bin it.
Hmm.
So move on, and being left in that limbo is not good. So
Wow.
that was what was happening. So I obviously had Will trying to drive Will. I had the guitar player trying to drive the guitar player, and these were the elements that made the difference. If I could play guitar and if I could sing, I wouldn't be asking these people. But that's not Will. More with Grant and other associates who came in and did bits and pieces. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a bit. We're all a bit chilled now because Will's got his own little studio going. He knows what I want. And then the other thing that really stops all that creativity is, dare I say, all the social media and all that kind of business side of things. Where we didn't do that back in the day. So I could spend endless amounts of time on whatever social media promoting our music and our brand, and forget about the engine room. And I got really twisted on that. I don't like that. I prefer to write, record, and put music out. I understand this essence of you've got to do the social media, you've got to be seen, you've got to do what you can, but it's it's a tough gig, especially if you're the main writer in them. And I organise all the CDs, and I organise all the gigs, and I organise still to this day. So it's like, and it's not because of control. It's because, dare I say, bless, other people have other skills. I can't write lyrics. I can't write melody. So I'm not going to ask Will to go and sit on the social media post he can't do, and me go and try and do lyrics that I can't write. So unfortunately, you're kind of stuck with what you can do, and that's how it goes, unfortunately. So a lot better nowadays, though, Chris, because we've got a bit more, how can you say, understanding of where we need to focus on within social media. Music wise, I'm just itching to get back. I got 3 tracks I wrote last December, and they're different. They're different kind of Gone Savage, and I just want to get on that, and I can't at the minute because I'm doing other things. It's very frustrating. 'Cause
Yeah,
I don't live and breathe it. I don't do
yeah, I
24/7
can
music.
understand that. So you had a partnership with Heaven and Hell Records. How did that
Yep.
come about?
So Jeremy Hand, he and Gary Spiller, they run Heaven and Hell, and they're like a boutique for releases, classic releases, things that have gone amiss. They do an awful lot of old stuff, new stuff. They re-image new stuff as well. Old stuff, sorry, I should say. Like Steelheart. Steelheart in Italy do the same thing. So Steelheart, that's a guy called Primo. He does all that in Italy and did that with Sweet Sin. So Jeremy didn't know about that. He came along and he heard the album and said that basically he'd seen it digitally and would like to release it physically. So we had this conversation, and then obviously when I told him the background, he was all very, very much on board with that. He liked it, and it gave, because we had history. It was a bit weird because we had the history, so the collectors could get in and in on that. They also were already in on Gone Savage and in on Sweet Sin, but this was a new album, so it was a bit weird. So that's their first release of new material on a kind of retrospective label. So it was a bit weird. So yeah, but it went really well. So possibly, hopefully, in the future we'll do another one of them. I do hope so because they're good guys, and they get it everywhere. Good worldwide. So that's really good for me. I love that, and they've got their own distribution networks. Really good for me. I don't have to do any of that. They've got their own
Yeah.
artwork. I don't have to do any of that. So it's that management side of things which I like to give over if I can. Just too much for it all.
So, like, what was the reaction from fans and critics to the reimagined album Life in Black and White?
We did really well. I mean, the thing with that was a year between roughly. So 2022 May and then 23 December. So obviously a lot of people had heard the actual tracks through PastLife, through streaming, through digital downloads, through whatnot. The album came out and was more a hit with the collectors and the people that wanted a CD. It's a funny one because I would say that the majority of people that heard PastLife probably didn't buy Life in Black and White. But I think a lot of people bought Life in Black and White having not heard PastLife. It's a bit strange. We've got a similar situation with Retrograde at the moment because Retrograde was meant to be released by Muzzle Records in Arizona, and they didn't deliver on their promises. There's no bad feeling. It was a case of they brought it and said they would release it, and it went out on a streaming site first. And I said to the chap there that I didn't want that. I did not want people to stream this thing because I've experienced the streaming where people they say try before you buy, but the reality is, and I've done it myself, Chris, is you get almost complacent that you can turn it on anytime you want. Why do you want to buy it? Not that you don't want to buy it to basically help the band or help the band or endorse the band. People just don't get around to it. I've had people recently saying they want to buy the CDs, like in black and white CD, and for 3 or 4 weeks, no money's changed hands. And I know why, because they'll pick it up on the net. They'll say they want to buy it, and it's a really tough gig. So we're back in that situation with Retrograde, but I want to get it out physically because I know that it will go, and I know that in say 2 or 3 years' time it'll go even faster. That's how it kind of works. It's one of those where people they will listen to you, but then in a few years' time they want to know how can I get the CD, how can I get the Resurrection. I've still got the Resurrection CDs, not many, but 1 or 2, and then that's when the interest kind of comes back. And it's through that kind of collectors network. So I'd like to get it out because the artwork's really good as well. So but we're hoping I should have some news in the next month or so, and then failing all of that, I'll release it myself.
I like that. But so talking about artwork, do you think Hugh Syme's involvement in the album artwork influenced your band's visual identity?
Yeah, I do. I do to a large degree. I got in touch with you last August, and ironically, the one of the labels at the time we were talking to didn't like the artwork. Even you don't have to. Nobody you don't have to just because it's a Rolex watch. You don't have to like it. It might be the best of the best, but you have an opinion. They just didn't like it, so a bit strange. But when we filtered that through from through our social media, it's been really well received, and I personally love it. At the end of the day, it's like if I like it, there you go. I'm not being not being solitary, but it's like it's our investment, and we like it, and I think it's got a good bent because the retrograde is a nod to the past and a nod to the future as well, and it does help you. It certainly helps people to at least show an interest in. Oh, these boys must have some not funding, but they must have some. They must have something. It's like, why would you go to something like Hugh Simon if you were going to knock out something that was rubbish? You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it. Well, I don't believe you would do it. So I like to think it's just a stamp on a good album, a rubber stamp.
Yeah, wow. Um, so do you have any favorite tracks from Retrograde and why? And I think Into Ya and Sunshine and Flowers is pretty good, but what are
I like,
yours?
yeah. Do you know Sunshine and Flowers? So that's originally a band that me and Will wrote. Our band, Revolution of Zephyr. And when we wrote that, it sounded similar. And I put all the rhythm guitars behind it and beefed it up with live drums. And then Will started doing some really good vocal line that we didn't have before. So all these vocals that come in and all nice and ad hoc vocal at the end, I love it. I said to her, I didn't really like that one, but I love that track. So that's how when you record something and then when you listen to something, you can have two different opinions. Soul Sister's a good one for me as well. I like that one. And the other one that I really liked how it came out was Shameless. We originally called it Shameless Girl, but
Yeah.
we did this on this album called Shameless, and it's got
Hmm.
a really good vibe, really good 80s meets modern, and it's so good. I like it, So I'll be honest with you, I listened to it the other week, and it was yeah, I still enjoy putting it on. I still have it going round and round. Not too much. I'm one of these who I only want to listen to it a little bit and often because
Yeah.
I do get that. Oh,
Train wrote a song called Soul Sister, and that's a good one too.
yes, yes, it did. Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
it did.
Um, wow. So how does the current lineup of Gone Savage contribute to the band's sound and dynamic?
For now, because we've got Dex now doing the drums, so not the writing. So you could. I mean, traditionally we used to rehearse in a room and write. So back in the day, you get into a rehearsal room, four walls, and you write music. Now I write music and then I give it to Will, as I mentioned before, and then people like Dex will pick it up as a drum track, but it's not. It's a guide. You might as well have a tap 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 tap. It's the suggestions in it. So when I wrote the or did all the drum tracks for PastLife, which are all programmed, I did take some influence from bands like lots of little shuffle beats and things like Rammstein do a lot of things like little shuffle beats. And again, it's a band that you'd wouldn't necessarily connect with Gone Savage, but the drumming is really nice. So I put some nice beats in, but I don't say to Dex, you need to do these beats. He will then have an idea and he goes into the studio and he comes back and his idea is superb. So he takes it up a notch. Like it, he's an absolute pro. He's a beast. He's been playing since age 8 professionally, believe it or not. He's a Kiwi, so he's
Wow.
from New Zealand.
Wow.
He's a tender age of about me. Played for 50 years. So he used to play. He's played with all kinds. He's got oh crikey, is it Carmine Appici? That's one of his tutors, and he played with all kinds of bands all around the world. He's got such a good feel for it, and yeah, it's a different ball game when you put a decent drummer in it. The guitarists, yeah, they bring a lot to the plate. I mean, like I say, I do create an awful lot of the guitar backing, but I can't do the solos. So, yes, the solos are vital, and also the licks and all the little bits and the nuances, like little licks and that, they do that. So the main thing for me is that, main thing, I write it, I give it to Will, that goes up a notch. We get it back, I give it to Dex, it goes up a notch. So it's a continuation up. It's not necessarily that they're writing or inputting into it. It's just I just feel it feels so much better, so much better. And every time it comes back, it's better. It's better and better. It's like seeing something being born.
Well, I have a couple more questions before we end this stream. One of them is, do you think your band's music has evolved over the years?
Yeah, 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 definitely, definitely. I mean, the irony of it is that PastLife was a really big turn towards a more modern sound, shorter structures. I did things differently. So like back in the olden days, it was very standard. You do your verse, chorus, middle eight, solo, verse, chorus, off you go. That was a normal formula. You work on about 4.5, 5 minutes. Well, I've stripped everything down now. So basically, you might have an intro, you might have a verse, and straight into choruses and choruses, lots of hook lines, very short. So I tend to do about 3 to 3.5 minute, 4 minute songs. Everything's focused on, it sounds awful, the attention span of most people. But I've still got an opportunity, as on Retrograde, we've got 6 and 7 minute tracks in there. And that's where I want to go. Not so much off that beaten track to prog, but I thought that PastLife gave us that opportunity to change, and we have done, to change the way we're going to direct our music. So the ones that I've got, I was telling you about before, which I'm kind of 3 or 4 songs into, totally different. Totally different. It's got a good indie feel as well to them. So a bit more like a bit of a harder U2 sound. It's a lot more, less reliance on solos and less reliance on licks, and more reliance on chords and vocal and melody. So again, it's I'm engineering out the bits that I can't do. So if I don't need a solo, I'm not going to put a solo in. So that's the kind of way I'm going now, Chris. I'm making it more that me and Will and Dex can do it. We'll have the odd solo thrown in, of course, but it's a different sound. It's great, fantastic. Can't wait to finish it off. Totally different. So that's because we've been evolving, changing.
Yeah, if somebody came up to you after a performance, or you're anywhere and they recognize you, whatever, or even let's say the performance come up to you and say, I want to do exactly what you're doing. I want to join a band. I want to sing. I want to learn an instrument. I want to join a band, be part of a band, start a band. What would you say?
Go for it.
What would be a word of advice?
Go for it. When I see, I had this conversation with my son because he plays a bit as well, and everybody gets hung up on, I need this and I need that and I need the other. You don't need any of that. You need to be able to have an instrument, obviously. You need to be able to say, look, I'm going to play this, and if it doesn't sound right, I'm going to play it slightly differently. And then when it comes to recording that music, it's not, it's not black magic. Get your iPhone, get your phone, whatever, get your voice out. Just record something, and then if it sounds okay, have a look at free software, Audacity and Reaper and things like that, and put one track on, and then record another track and put that on, and get that feeling that I can do this. And you don't have to be. You certainly don't have to be taught. There's nobody here who says, "Well, what chords are you playing here on PastLife and Retrograde?" I don't know. You sound good. That'll do. And so it's all to play for. But people just don't. This is what I alluded to before. So when we try to get people out of their bedrooms in the 2010s and 2020s, they're bloody useless. And I don't know why. And I say to people, you can do what I'm doing. There's no right or wrong. But you've got to at least try and have a bit of confidence that you can do something. I think the biggest thing is that people won't do it because of the fear of failure, or they feel fear of criticism, or the fear of somebody saying, oh well, that drum bass drum doesn't sound too good. It's like, oh, forget all that. That comes later. All the recording, the techniques, and all the production comes later. Give me a song, and it's one of those. Just go for it, please. And I say to people, if you want any advice, get in touch with me. I'll tell you how I did it. I did my first ever 2-track recording at about 15, just using my dad's Sony, just one mic on, and then I just managed to loop it onto another track. So I did 4 tracks, just with 2-track, and I had a drum kit. My mate Dennis was playing his drum kit in my mum's room, front room, and I was playing my bass, and my mate Carl was playing guitar. Just go for it, I think that's the secret.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's Gone Savage, everyone. Amazing music. Everything will be linked down below. Um, their Spotify, their YouTube account. Excellent. Thank you so much, Ian, for joining us today.
Thank you,
Um,
Chris. Really appreciate your time. Lovely to meet you, and
lovely. Nice to meet you.
hopefully, hopefully I'll not talk too much. I always tend to get on a roll, and I can't
That's okay.
stop.
I'm looking forward to future
Passionate.
communication. Okay, everyone, we're going to end the stream. Wait right there, Ian. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Bye, folks.